Hi, everybody. This is Julissa. Thank you so much for coming back to my podcast, everybody. I wanted to come here and talk to you guys about something that I discovered like late in life, I guess you can say. But these are some of the things that we as humans we do, and we do it sometimes without realizing how much it can affect somebody, right? So I has come here to my podcast and talk to you guys about emotional abuse and things like that. But today I'm going to talk about a phenomenon, I guess you can say. This thing is practiced so often, and sometimes we do it without even realizing. But I feel like at some point or another we all do it, and that's what you as a human we always need to be checking our feelings and our reaction to things, right? So today I'm going to talk to you guys about projection, right? And projection psychology, and I learned about this. I guess you can say many years ago, right? Um, but back then I was not really. Even though I took one psychology class when I was in college, I have to say, even though I went to school for fashion, one of my requirements was psychology, and the other regular major classes that you needed to take to graduate. But I remember I really like my psychology class. I think it makes you learn so much about human behavior and the things that people do, right? But to be honest, I didn't know about projection psychology until later, like I said. And I guess I heard about it. I remember one time I was working at a store, and this young girl was just out of college. She just started working there part time, and somehow we started talking about projection psychology. And I was like, what does she mean? Then she being a fresh graduate, she tried to explain it. And then, of course I listened to her and all of that, but I then, I didn't really dig into it more. But now I'm here to tell you guys some of the things that what projection psychology really is, right? So let me just start by saying, projection is the process of displacing one's feeling into a different person, right? And people do this a lot, you guys. All those videos that we see of Karens, right? We see so many people getting angry because somebody asked them a question and assuming that that person was attacking them, and it's like, no, you left your house angry, but you want to find, like, it's almost like you don't want to acknowledge that feeling, so you want to put it on somebody else, right? It's basically, I describe it as a scapegoat, right? I don't want to face what I'm feeling right now, so I'm gonna blame you for something. Oh, I'm gonna pick a fight out of nothing just to blame you, and that is so damaging to the other person. Okay, I have experienced projection psychology um, in my life. It's not fun at all, and maybe I can say in some other time I had you know actually being the one projecting onto somebody else, and we have to be so careful about that, right? One thing I have to say, right? Always don't believe everything that you think, right? Not people, like, a lot of the times, have you ever let's say you buy one of those fancy gowns, right? And then you're like, I'm gonna wear this dress to this event, but I know everybody's gonna be looking at me and thinking, I probably should have grabbed a bigger size or something. Or maybe my dress is too long or too tight or too fancy for this. And then we already leaving our house with that thing in our head. And the minute somebody says, hey, I love your dress, then we can be like, oh, you see? She's trying to tell me that it looks too tight. And it's such a bad thing to do, because like I said, it hurts the other person. Okay, that's the biggest thing. It hurts the other person, so we need to have healthy minds, right? And the subject, right, of mental health, being a Christian, right? Believe it or not, like, it's hard to see it in the church. It's hard for people to speak about it, right? It's almost like a taboo subject. It's almost like, there are many subjects that people don't speak about in the churches, and they completely, avoid it, I guess you can say. But I another thing that I noticed too is like, people who are single past a certain age, they no longer matter. Everything is catered to families, right? Everything's catered to married couples, and the ladies and things like that. But it's like you have, and career people, right? Like the young adults, you have young adults, kids, married couples, and the ladies group. But then when it comes to like the single, you know adults, I guess you can say, nothing's being done for them. And you know when it comes to mental health, I think that's another thing that churches don't like to speak about. And these days, especially after the pandemic, there are people who are struggling with mental health. And I think there is it's a look down type of thing when somebody says, hey, I've been feeling depressed, right? Or I haven't been feeling, oh, you don't have enough faith, right? And then when you speak to somebody and then they bring the Bible, it's like you're attacking with the Bible verse. You can say to somebody, hey, I haven't been feeling 100% this past week. Well, the word of God says, right? The word of God says you have to be joy in all circumstances. It's like, can you hear people out? Can you hear people out? It's okay to have conversations that perhaps make you uncomfortable. And if you're uncomfortable, then maybe send somebody else who can talk to that person, but just watch how you say things. So when it comes to projection psychology, I think it goes hand in hand. People who are angry with themselves, are angry at a situation, they don't know how to manage those feelings, right? So what they do, right? They immediately will reach out to whoever. Like, I feel like it's almost like whoever answers the phone first, right? So whoever answers the phone first, I'm gonna tell you how my day was. And the minute you say, oh, that really happened, oh, really, they did that to you? What do you mean they did that to me? Like, are you trying to say I deserved it? And immediately it goes from a conversation, normal conversation, to you being projected upon just because you ask a question. And that person feels like, I found my outlet. I'm going to release my energy, my bad energy, my bad feeling, and to this person, I get angry with them now, because at the end of this whole thing, it's going to make me feel better because I let go of those feelings. And the other person is left hanging, thinking, what just happened? Like, I just asked one question and she's going off on me. I didn't even mean any of that she now is accusing me for. And we have to be so careful with that. Like, like I tell you guys, you know, just living life. And I'm not trying to say by any means that I'm perfect. I'm saying these are things that I learn along the way. I'm always checking myself. I'm like, life is, you have to know how to react to things, right? You have to know how to react to things. And if you can stay quiet, there's a reason why you don't have to answer to every argument. And I think a lot of the times, when we are presented in a situation that is going to get us really angry, we have to just in that moment just pray real quick. Just be like, God, please take over. Please take over, God, because I don't want to go off or like be so angry or react the wrong way. Because had you ever noticed that some things are not really a big deal? You know what I mean? Like, some things are so easy to manage, and some things are not really how we see it in the moment, right? Because things change all the time, right? And perhaps it could be any situation, right? It could be at a workplace, you're dealing with something, or oh, they're gonna have this big meeting now, and they go on a, let's just say, they're gonna go over performance, and there you are in your head working 100 miles per hour, thinking, if they bring that up, I'm gonna say the other. Is the other thing, then I'm gonna make sure I mention this. And then you have this meeting, and it's completely, positive. There's no, like, there's nothing really to make anybody angry about. And it's like, wow, you just use your head for nothing, right? And you just went off in your head, in your mind, already reacting to scenarios and situations that never happened. So we have to be so careful about that. I like, that I'm very calm, but I have my days, obviously, like everybody. So we all have these moments where we're like, I'm just, let them talk. It's okay. You can listen, right? But there are people who, like I said, sometimes they leave their home and there are people who are like ready to bark at anybody, right? You ask them one question, they're ready to bark at you. And that's, I truly believe that's an example of projection, right? Like, I'm so angry that any little thing that anybody might say to me, I'm gonna, go off on them because I'm trying to release this feeling that I have, and I'm trying to suppress the feeling, right? Because the feelings, they need to come out, right? So that is what projection is. It says it's an unconscious discomfort that can lead people to attribute unacceptable feelings or impulses to someone else to avoid confronting them, right? Have you ever been blamed? You know when people do things, bad things to you, and then they blame you for their reaction? Well, I only did that because of what you say, or because of what you look, the way you looked at me. That's why I reacted like that. No, you are an adult. You make your own decisions. I will never forget. There's a movie. I will never forget this thing. It's this movie. I don't even know the name, and it came out not long ago. It was Halle Berry, and I think it was The Phone Call or something like that. I will never forget this movie, how this evil man kidnapped this young girl from a mall parking lot, something like that. I'm sure people know what movie I'm talking about. And Halle Berry is a reception, a call center staff for the emergency line, right? And she gets this call, and then the whole movie, like towards the end, when she is towards the end, I think the bad guy is killing somebody who tried to escape from him, right? And then he's screaming after he done his evil work. He's screaming at the person who's already dead, saying, "Look what you make me do." Or he's screaming at the other girl. He's like, "Look what you make me do." Projection is just like that example to me. I will never forget watching that because people who are evil, they always want to blame somebody else. It's never their fault, right? It's like, I'm reacting angry because of you. And that's such a scapegoat, so immature, and people who are not mentally right do this all the time. Okay, so let me just continue and tell you a little bit more about projection psychology, right? Um, and then you get people like, it says, an example of projection is the person who is married, a married man who is attracted to a female coworker, but rather to saying that, he says, the other person is flirting with me. And that happens so often. I'm not saying with married men, but I'm saying like with people in general. Like they'll flirt with you, right? Like you like men will flirt with you, and they'll be like, "Oh, I know you like me." Dude, you've been flirting with me since we met, and now I'm the one who likes you. It's so crazy. Like, I don't understand sometimes people do this. Um, like I said, it's just they don't know how to deal with that feeling, and they're always accusing somebody. I have probably the best example. I used to work for this company. I'm gonna be so honest right now. I used to work for this company, and they happened to hire. This is how crazy the world is right now. They happened to hire somebody who committed fraud with the government. And her first day, she was our supervisor, right? Because people don't do background checks anymore. So she was our supervisor, and she got hired to manage the department that deals with money, right? Because it's almost like bringing somebody who has a drinking problem, bringing them to manage a bar, right? Like you want to keep people separate from things that they are weak to, they're so weak about, right? So by that time, I already been working in that company for like 3 years, right? And we had a very solid team. Everybody get along with everybody. We did our work, whatever, right? So she comes along, and it's a new person in the office. So people started researching about her. What do you do in these days? You Google people, right? You Google their name and things like that. And the first thing that comes up on the Google search is that she has actually been arrested for committing fraud and stealing from the government. And this person got hired to manage the finance department for this company. But this is how people are, right? People who project their feelings on you, they always want to blame you for the things that they really are, right? So she was so like shaky, micromanaging everybody, checking on people, and making sure you bring that deposit money. Why? Because, she stole before and she got caught and she got arrested. And so she thinks everybody's like her. So this lady went overboard. Like I actually ended up quitting because I couldn't take her micromanagement and her assumptions too. And you have to be careful to work with other people like that because it's almost like when people get arrested and it's so public, they're so traumatized and they want to somehow feel, like they're not the only one who can mess up. So any little thing that they might see, they will build a case against you. You have to be so careful. And I'm being honest because that's how when I was there, that's how I felt about her. I'm like, it's better for me to just go because I know we all know her history. Everybody in the office know. You will see people talking behind closed door, everybody know, right? But she was so like assuming that everybody was, like stealing, not stealing, but like she wanted to be on top of everything. I remember her first meeting was like, I wanted, you know, her first meeting, she's like taking workload from everybody. It's almost like, wow, you're doing everybody's work. And the reason why she needed to do that, because one, she was a micromanager, right? So she wanted to control everything and she wanted to, be on top of, I guess the money, right? I don't know what her plan was. That's the other thing, right? So if she fall on her weakness again, she's not going to go for it again. She's not going to be admitting that, so she's going to blame somebody else. So I don't even know how that person got hired. All I'm saying is like you have to be so careful because people who project on others, they will never have they're always looking who they can blame. They're always looking who they can project their feelings on. So we were, like I said, we were a very solid team. Everybody got along. Everybody worked there for years. I have people that, like, I was probably the youngest one, 3 years. Everybody else was like 7 years, 10 years, 17 years. So everybody got along. Here she comes new with a really criminal record like that. And then she assumes everybody, you know, was doing wrong and that she needed to micromanage everybody. No, it is her. She's the one who brought the problem. But because she don't know how to handle that negative feeling, she wanted to project it on everybody. So it came to a point that you would walk in and say good morning. Oh, I didn't like how she said good morning, you know? And it's like, wow. I remember one thing that she did too. She always kept her door closed. And it's like, you're the new supervisor and your door is closed since you come in at 8 until you leave at 5. And it was like, who hired this? Like, you wanted like to see like what kind of company is this that is, they're putting, it's almost like I said before, they're putting a person who has a drinking problem to manage the bar. Like you're putting them right there. And it was just crazy. I'm like, I need to get out because what if anything, she's never, if anything happened, she already has a history on that. None of us have a problem with that. We all get along. We've been here for years. Great integrity with everybody that worked there. Okay, there was not one person who had anything that you can think of. At least for the 3 years that I was there, I never heard anything bad. And here comes trouble, trying to project her feelings on people. And it's like they don't see it. If HR doesn't see it, you need to get out. And that's exactly what I did. So that's projection psychology, guys. We have to be so careful. And also, like I said, we have to be so careful how we use it too. right? Because it's like I said, it's tricky. So if you are out and about, right, to the store or something, check yourself. If you're about to get angry with the server, if you're about to get angry with anything, you're like, hmm, did they really say that to me like that? Or I'm just projecting how I'm feeling today to them, right? Like, they didn't mean it like that, right? Oh, I didn't like their tone of voice, or I'm gonna, these days everybody complains, right? Everybody wants to complain to the manager, right? I don't need to speak with your manager, right? You disrespected me. And like I said, we see so many videos of these Karens, right? They go off on people for a sandwich that was made wrong. You know how many times this is why I stopped eating out too. Not only do like I feel like people are cheating now these days when it comes to the food. The prices go up and the portions are less. So I always notice that they always missing something from my order. I don't know what it is, right? So I'm like, I'm done ordering out. But like, I would never go back to a restaurant, especially food. You have to be so careful to get angry at a restaurant. Like, for me, if I go to a restaurant, right, and they did me bad service, or the food was not like great, or something was missing from my order after I drove off, I'm done. Like, I'm not gonna come back. Because imagine you returning food to people that are making your food. These days are crazy, guys. And yes, perhaps nothing will happen, but I feel like people are so easy and quick to complain, right? And people always complain also to the people who can fix their situation. That's the other thing, okay? So it's just crazy. Um, so yes, at the end of the day, projection psychology is a defense mechanism, right? It's such a negative feeling that when people are projecting on you their feelings, they don't know how to handle it. So the easiest way they can do, if to get it out quick, I guess you can say, the best thing that they'll do is the easiest way is to pick a fight with you out of thin air. They might call you and be like, so I just went to the mall. I needed to do a return. And you can say, oh, you went there again? Didn't you tell me you were there like 2 days ago too? Just because you're asking them, trying to keep the conversation flowing. What are you trying to say? That I return every day now? That all I do is buy and return? This is why I can speak to you these days, because you're always assuming stuff about me. And you're like, what just happened with this conversation? You are angry because you're going to return again, but now you call me so that I can join in this conversation. It's such a manipulation tactic, by the way, so everybody. Now they call you to kind of like speak with you about it, and you think, they're just trying to communicate with me. And, if you don't say anything to them, they'll be like, are you listening to what I'm saying? So it's a problem. So you say, oh, you went again? You told me the other day you were there again. And now they take that as you accusing them of buying and returning things. And people do this all the time. Like, I deal with that in my life. I feel like there are people in my life that I deal with. They always projecting their feeling on me. And it's like, oh my goodness, how am I going to save myself from this? I see it now. Like I told you, sometimes emotional abuse can take years for you to realize what it is. And that is so sad, because by the time you realize, you're so accustomed to it. You're so accustomed to it, and you get disrespected over and over again. The problem with being disrespected is that it becomes a codependency. And when you're having like everything's going fine, the work, business, everything seems to be going fine. You're like, I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, yeah, you're missing being cursed out by somebody in your family, let's just say. So let me call and see how they're doing. And there it goes, because people who keep their negative feelings on, they're always, one day they lift you up and you're like, oh, you're amazing, let's get together. And the next day it's like, did you see what happened because I didn't, you're supposed to do that and you didn't do the other, and I can't take it with you. You don't know how to do anything. And it's like, wow, you know. And like I said, it can take years for you to realize that you have been sad. That's the sad truth, right? That you have been verbally abused, emotionally abused for years, right? And I hope that in the churches they will speak more about this stuff. And I know it's hard, right? I think that, I know somebody who, I accept people for who they are, right? And because I know everybody's trying to be accepted for who they are, but then you know about people and you're like, wow, this person just dismisses everything. She, this different type of people. I guess I tend to not analyze people, but like, hmm, that's quite interesting that they do that. But it's not like I go and have conversations with mutual friends and things like that. No, like people are different, right? And that's the beauty of life, right? But one thing I noticed about this person is that you would take to talk to them. It's almost like that. There are people who always give you that Christian answer. It's so crazy. Like, can we have real conversations? Like, you don't have to just give me a Bible. Like I told you guys, I read the Bible on a daily basis on my YouTube channel. I'm always posting reels on Instagram about Bible verses, right? And I'm so thankful for that. Like I was telling the Lord, I'm like, I love doing that, Lord. Thank you for the opportunity, for the ideas and what Bible verse you want me to read and things like that. So, like, I know a lot about, Bible verses and things like that. But there are people who you talk to them, and just because we go to church and we know about Jesus doesn't mean that you can dismiss everything that I say to you with the Bible verse. Like, can you hear me out for a second? You can, I remember one time I saw this person, right? It's like, we're not really like friends that we know each other's birthday, but we share things in church, in events and things like that on and off throughout the years. Hey, how's everything? I randomly saw her at an event. Hey, how's everything? We started talking about the event, whatever. And I said, my mom is not doing too good. That's when my mom began her. She got really bad with dementia. My mom has dementia, and we went through the whole thing with going to the ER because she was violent and things like that, right? Well, at that moment, I remember I was at an event, showing my face, but I was dealing with a lot, and I know who she was. And maybe perhaps people can say, it's not the right moment, but don't dismiss people so quick, right? Especially with this type. I said, my mom is not doing too good. Well, I think the Lord, God is gonna take care of her. The Lord will take care of it. Like, you don't even let me finish to tell you what it is. Like, there's nobody here, like, close to us that can hear anything. Like, people are so uncomfortable sometimes. And I can understand not everybody's open to communications like that. It's just so disappointing with it, you're not letting me finish and you're already saying, well, the Lord will I know the Lord will take care of it. And I know God, by his stripes we're healed and all of that. I just need you to hear me out for a moment. But it's okay. All right. It's just life is hard, you guys. You have to find the right person who will listen to you. And like I said in my previous podcast, there are people who want to help, and a lot of the times they just want to help to see how you live, I guess you can say, to allow themselves to go into your private living area, I guess you can say, not private, but, that's funny, to go into your private circle of life, I guess you can say, where you don't let a lot of people in, and they come in with a helping hand, and then they'll give feedback on you, and that is the worst thing, right? But anyways, I I'm almost out of time. I really hope that you learned something from this podcast. I gotta say, I'm gonna be making more podcasts now. I really hope In case you haven't noticed yet, I am using a new mic that I just got. So it's like I needed to use it today. I'm so excited. The audio is going to be amazing. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you come back and listen some more. God bless.